Hello, everyone. My name is Daisha Elliott. I'd like to welcome you all to the Mental Health Roundtable. For today's roundtable, this is going to be one of many conversations and panels that we will be having discussing mental health and specifically mental health in the BIPOC communities. So, here I have with me some esteemed guests today, and I want to turn it over to them.
Well, first of all, I'm Thomas W. Dortch III, better known as Trey, and I'm actually coming in as a student. I'm eager to learn and hear everyone's stories and their point of view on what's going on in the mental health space. I am the CEO of the Prime Theory Company. It's a health and wellness company out of Atlanta, Georgia. But once again, I'm here as a student. I'm eager to learn. I'm very excited. And I'll turn it over to our first official guest, Miss Paige Gaines. We cannot do your introduction any justice, so we always like to allow our guests to introduce themselves. So yes, Miss Paige Gaines.
Oh, awesome. I didn't know if it was me or not. So perfect. So my name is Paige Gaines, and I am the CEO and founder of 911 St. Jane. You can also call me St. Jane, so AKA SJ. And I'm an individual that has lived experience. I live with a mental health diagnosis. I am a suicide survivor, and I really just love sharing my story. And I'm here to offer any words of wisdom, anything that I can give that I've learned just from living with a diagnosis, anything that I can do to give back. And that's what I do. That's why I'm here.
All right, thank you for that introduction. Next, we have Miss Kiana Howell. How are you doing?
I'm good. How you doing? I'm Kiana Howell. I am the founder and CEO of Empowered to Heal. I am a master's level therapist where I do provide therapy and life coaching services through my company, and also share other mental health awareness by way of books, speaking engagements, and you name it, whatever I can to help provide mental health education and awareness.
Well, I have to say this, and this is not part of the program, but Miss Howell is being modest. Personally, she helped save my life, and that's something we'll get into at some point. If not today, I'm definitely gonna get that out there one day. But she helped save my life, and definitely Miss Gaines too as well. Like, your story is compelling. It's not too many people I know in my space where I come from who are very open with those struggles, and I know telling your story has saved a lot of lives and talked people out of doing self-harm and other things. So I really appreciate both of you for being here. And I just had to throw that in there. I couldn't go on without saying it.
I love it. And I think that's important. So just to reiterate again, I'm Daisha Elliott, and I'm a doctoral student at Clark Atlanta University. I am studying in the Whitney M. Young Jr. School of Social Work, and I also am researching mental health and technology. And so along with Thomas, I am here as a student, but a researcher, and wanting to make sure that we promote, bring awareness, and definitely help our mental health professionals and our advocates, get what resources need to be out there so that we as a people, we as a nation, we as a community could move forward. So the way that this conversation is going to go, we just kind of wanted to go over these statistics that haven't really changed much historically, at least from what I'm seeing. And then we're going to go into, the meat and potatoes of mental health and what that looks like. So just for the sake of the audience, I'm going to run past these numbers. And so it says that for the Hispanic population, right, you have 18.3% of them that are Latino. And out of that, 16% of that population is reporting to have had some type of mental illness within the past year. For African Americans, we're 13.4% of the United States population. And again, you have at least 16% of us or more, right, that have reported mental illness in the past year. And those are just two big statistics. Another one I want to bring to the forefront is that in college, there's at least 1 in 4 individuals who will have some type of reported anxiety, mental disability, anything of that nature. And so when we look at those statistics across the nation, across those different communities, that helps us kind of get into that first question. And so, Trey, if you can go ahead and introduce our first question, and we can get everybody's opinion on that.
Okay, before I even ask that question, I think we all know that those numbers still are low. A lot of people do not report those true numbers. They don't report having any issues at all. And I can be a testament to that. For years, I never opened my mouth, but suffered internally and quietly. So we know that I would even go as far as to say those numbers might be double, especially with the pandemic and what's going on, not just in the United States, but across the world. So I had to say that first. But, going into the first question, the question that I want to ask is how you all personally got into the mental health space. I know we heard a little bit, but please go into detail about how you just got into not just dealing with mental health personally, but how you became an advocate or how your work began in the mental health space.
You can go first, Paige.
Okay. Oh gosh. Okay. So I started, like I said, I live with a mental health diagnosis, but my actual journey to getting into mental health fields, I got a link via Twitter, and it gave me the option of writing my story and they would publish it. And I was like, okay, like they're probably not going to publish it, but this is my time just to kind of step out and see what happens. It's my time to advocate. And I did so, and they actually did publish it. And I just saw my picture all over the internet and I got so excited. But what was more exciting was actually me sharing it with my family and my friends and getting such great feedback. And all of it wasn't good. Some people were like, why are you sharing family secrets? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? But getting such the great feedback that I got, it really encouraged me and gave me that stamp of approval that I had to keep going. And so from there forward, I just started doing speaking engagements and holding workshops and different trainings and things like that. And I really became obsessed with mental health. I became obsessed with trainings. I became obsessed with the education, learning the language, and really just becoming a resource for our community. So that's really, it just started with the Twitter link for me, outside of my own mental health challenges that I did have and that I still live with. But it's just grown into something that's beautiful now. And I really do appreciate being in this field. I did not go to college for it, but I landed here and I'm okay with that.
Well, I've always been passionate about counseling and psychology since I was a teenager. But in adult years, I moved into recruiting and HR. So it wasn't until after I left an abusive relationship that I wanted to become more purposeful and intentional with my life. And that's where I end up being redirected back to the mental health field. So that's when I went back to school to complete my master's in counseling. And I started working in the field right when I started my master's program. So I was blessed to be able to gain experience over the course of my program and not wait until the end or after completing my degree. And so it's just been a good experience because I've been able to work in different settings, different populations, just to even know what I'm supposed to focus on as far as my main focal areas are, trauma, addiction, depression, anxiety. And then, of course, a lot of people are still getting used to the fact that I am definitely targeting the male population because our males, especially our Black men, definitely need more support in the mental health capacity because, as Trey said, there's a lot of people out there who need help or are struggling, but it's not reported because people are not talking, they're not speaking out, they're not asking for help. And so that is something that I'm really working on now, is not just being focused on sitting in the office all day doing therapy, but to help bring awareness so that people will become more open to seeking counseling and understanding what mental health really is, because there's a lot of stigmas preconceived notions about mental health. So just helping people understand that it's really not a thing where you have to be labeled as anything. It does not mean you have this red stamp plastered on you, for people to ostracize, but it's something that we all actually struggle with at different cycles of our lives, and that there's resources out there to help everyone. So from the youngest to the oldest. So that's what I'm passionate about, and I love what I do.
So I have to ask a question. We focus on the BIPOC community with these roundtables. And we really want to, encourage people to speak out and come to the forefront, either seeking help because of the need, or to just tell their story or offer some experience you never know who that could help. But my question really is, what do you think it looks like overall in our communities, in the BIPOC community? And I want to know the good, the bad, the ugly. Of course, the pandemic has changed a lot, but I have my personal opinions about what's going on in our community, but I want to know what you all think. Where do we stand now?
I would say, gosh, I mean, it can go either way. It's exciting to see that we're having this conversation, right? It's exciting to see that the conversations are happening on around us. It's exciting to know that I can go to Thanksgiving in a few weeks and be transparent about my mental health and probably have that transparent conversation with my cousins or my aunts and so forth. But I also think there's still a lot of stigma, and there's still a lot of silence to where people aren't talking about it and they're not comfortable with saying, hey, and it's not even just about depression and anxiety. We all have mental health, right? So we all have to learn to be proactive when dealing with it and maintaining it, staying healthy the same way we do with our physical health. So I think trying to normalize the conversation, the more we keep this conversation going, the more we talk about it, the better it's going to be. So I know I'm just very optimistic. So I know that there's still a lot of work to be done, but I like to give credit to where credit's due. So we're all on this call tonight. We're all in this roundtable having this conversation. And again, the conversation is happening around us. So I definitely think a lot of great work is being done. And I think it's important to highlight that and to use it as encouragement and fuel to keep going and to keep moving.
I agree with Paige. Normalizing conversations just even in our families, in our family structures, having conversations with your children, having a conversation with your parents, your siblings. I know for me, once I start becoming more outspoken about it, even my family members start becoming more open to seeking therapy. And then it helped because, for me, just even as I learn and grow in the field, I was able to be like, identify, issues that were in our family as far as genetic factors, as far as, okay, well, just like if I'm talking with a client and we're asking about their family history, it applies to me as well. And so being able to see, oh, so depression runs in my family, or a lot of people in my family struggle with anxiety. And so being able to know how to identify, different things in your family structure, and having those conversations with them and getting them to the space where they're comfortable to seek help and support in those areas. And then if there's something more severe like bipolar or schizophrenia, understanding what are the community resources that are available to help support your family members that may need more intensive care on a regular basis versus, because sometimes medications need to be involved, case management. Some people may need to go to homes or, mental health facilities for a short period of time or whatever, but being able to become more familiar with what are the resources that are available, because again, we have a lot of resources out there that are untapped because people just don't know. They don't know what to do. I learned that even working in the hospital, we'll talk to family members and let them know what community resources are available in the area to help support their loved ones that were dealing with more severe mental health issues. And they were like, we just been just letting them be, oh, if they want to run out in the street naked every 2 months, we just do it and bring them back in, but understanding that there are medications, you can assign them, to psychiatrists, like I said, connecting them with case managers who can come check on your loved ones on a weekly basis to make sure that they're eating, they're taking their medications on schedule, and just different things. And so it's important that we do normalize the conversations that we have with our family, with our friends, with our colleagues, because we are encountering or engaging with people every day who have these struggles and they just don't know what to do. They really don't. And so they just suffer in silence. A lot of people, and that does lead to the high rate of suicide attempts or actual suicide rates, where people actually, are successful in, terminating their lives. And so at the end of the day, it's getting people to understand that they are not alone, and that they can get help and that it's out there for them.
I think a few points to take from what everybody's saying, right, is it's personal, right? There's family. A bit of it too may center around faith. And definitely as a researcher, I've seen how things have come through different policies. And I know on my end, my first experience was, having an aunt call me for money because she realized that, she wasn't able to afford her medication. And without it, those suicidal thoughts were, surfacing. And so having that experience as a teenager and then walking into adulthood and, having maybe, that best friend or that intimate relationship where, hey, there's something not on the up and up, or, sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down. And I don't know if it's me. I don't, so going through those different experiences, and then, you get the education, you get the awareness, right? And then you have advocates such as yourself that are bold and courageous and say, hey, this has been my experience, or this is, there's an actual scientific or biological reason for this. And also from a policy standpoint, if we look at the way that the laws, especially in the US, have been centered around like mental health facilities, going from state hospitals to community health centers, and that confusing process in between. I think, as you mentioned, Kiana, not really knowing, okay, what should we do with this family member? Or if you don't have family, right, where are you going? And sadly enough, we see where, okay, that's affected, like you mentioned, the suicide rates, also homelessness, and when we look at the criminal rates as well, and oftentimes we'll see that that mental illness was one of the factors that led to that. So I think that's something that we just have to be aware of. It's like, yes, I think it's a little bit more acceptable to talk about it, but I feel that we still have ways to go, and generational stigmas that we have to address as well.
And I think one of the next things we really want to know outside of our own family, because you're talking about policies and things of that nature, what are some of those other barriers that you see, especially in our community? I mean, we already know ourselves, us and our family members, we're our own barrier when it comes to speaking out and talking. But what are those other barriers that we often have to fight when it comes to policy and government and things of that nature?
I can address that one because just working in different facilities and other organizations, of course, finances always become a barrier. Insurance. And one of the things I had to learn, which still turns me off to this day, is that even if you have insurance, insurance still isn't necessarily being a strong advocate for you to get the mental health intervention that you need. They set limitations and barriers into how much treatment you could receive under their coverage before you have to pay out of pocket. And a lot of times, those a lot of individuals, they're counting on insurance to cover those costs because they can't afford it, especially if they need to be a part of a recovery program or some type of residential program or a mental health hospital, and they have to be there for a certain period of time. Like for instance, the mental health hospital, they give you 3 to 7 days average to basically get yourself together, and then they just push you back out on the street. And we have to keep like fluffing up the notes to justify, the severe need for continued coverage. Even with an addiction recovery program, they usually start off with only wanting to give you 30 days coverage. Well, you're talking about somebody that battled with addiction for years. They're not going to like be cured and healed from addiction in 30 days.
Okay.
And so just the limitations with, just the available resources financially. So a lot of times people, get stuck in that cycle of not being able to afford to pay for services. And so that was something that I was really, really conscious about, even in my own business, because I was like, I just saw such a great need and I just didn't want to be a part of, the providers out here that says, okay, I can't provide you this service because I'm charging you this. So I've had clients where I've had to work with them or give them time, to pay, because at the end of the day, my priority is to help you strengthen your mental health, not collect a paycheck. But unfortunately, we live in this society right now, a lot of organizations, that becomes a priority. And so people feel that energy, they pick up on that. And so for them, it just turns them off and puts them in a space where they don't even want to pursue the help, because they feel like it's just not out here for me. So I won't even try anymore. It's too much of a fight. So
Do you feel that that even children have, a way to address mental disability or mental illness? Or do you feel like, hey, it doesn't matter if you're young or old, there still may be either that financial gap or that education gap?
I mean, again, there's a lot of resources out there available for children, because even if you go, whether it's through DFACS, and they, have a program where they can help provide in-home therapy services for children. Of course, all the mental health facilities have a, youth wing, because some of them, it just depends on what age. Most of the time, no, it starts at age 11. And then for the younger population, there's different agencies that may cater to, someone that may be between the 1st and 5th grade year age gap. But a lot of times, sometimes it's the parents, not wanting to face the reality that, my child needs help, my child needs mental health intervention, my child needs therapy, because sometimes their fear is the struggles that my child may be facing may come back to pointing to me, you know what I mean? And their unwillingness to deal with whatever those issues may be, or not accepting that your child may have an actual mental illness that you have to, now be supportive of, and getting them, more intensive treatment. Like I said, sometimes medications. Now, there are some diagnoses that a child can be too young to be diagnosed. So it is important, again, to educate yourself, because I've seen cases where children were diagnosed with a mental illness, and I'm like, they can't, because they were too young to have that label placed on them. And it's usually a misdiagnosis. And so it's not until they get older, and other things happen, that they may get access to, providers that can realize, okay, this person was misdiagnosed. They have this issue, but they don't have that one. But here it is, they've been dealing with, now this stigma, or this tag on their back for years, taking the wrong medication, so forth. And so it's just important for us to be more open to reading, and listening to platforms like this, just different things that gives you an opportunity to hear and learn more about mental health and understand what it really is, and taking away at the stigmas, the stereotypes. I remember sitting in one program and the guy was like, I'm not crazy, so I don't have these issues. And I was like, it's not, don't think of it like that. It's not about that you're crazy. It's just the fact that you have this struggle. This person's struggle may be different from yours, but you don't get to turn your nose up at them, because at the end of the day, you guys are both here at the same place at the same time, getting help. And so it's just tearing away at those stigmas and people understanding that, you don't have to be labeled as crazy or psycho or whatever. Because I tell people, I mean, I've seen psychosis, I've seen schizophrenia episodes. And so those are on a whole another level. And so when you're working with somebody and you're struggling with addiction or depression or anxiety or PTSD, I mean, it's just totally different conditions or challenges. And even with bipolar, yes, it's mood swings, but it's different, types of bipolar. So it's just understanding what is going on with yourself or with loved ones, and doing the research and being able to advocate for yourself. Because I always encourage, anyone that I've encountered over the years, always understand what's going on so you know how to advocate for yourself with providers, because sometimes you encounter doctors who are not working or operating ethically. And you may end up, again, getting misdiagnosed, or you may end up getting prescribed the wrong medications that makes your condition worse. And so it's you being able to say, hey, I'm feeling this way when I take these medications. Because I hear so many people say, well, it was a doctor, I just took what they said. And I was like, no, because it was wrong. And now you're even more, messed up, because now you're dealing with issues unnecessarily because you might have been prescribed the wrong medication based off of misdiagnosis. And it's just, again, being able to just do the research and ask questions and talking to professionals to get the education and knowledge that you need to help your children. So I know the question was around children, but yeah, it's just getting that understanding, because again, children are going to be relying on their parents or other adults that they're being raised by or interacted with that day to help them and lead them to the resources they need, because children don't know where to go. So, just being able to get adults to understand that.
I know I thought that was an amazing answer. And I love the fact that you mentioned that there can be a misdiagnosis, or, there's a certain age period in time in which the right type of diagnosis can even be given. I think that's super key. And something else that I was thinking about too is there was an article written by a student at Morehouse School of Medicine. And it was basically about the alarming rates of those who were going to the emergency room, not necessarily because it was an emergency, but that was the first place that they were able to go to seek some type of mental health treatment. And so, I love the piece about not only being able to educate yourself and then educating your family, but do you still see where today, there's this kind of confusion among like where it is you should go to seek the help that you need?
Um, so I worked in a mental health hospital. And so of course, most of our patients were transferred from an emergency room. And so, yeah, you're right. I mean, sometimes they send people and we're like, we don't know why they sent them here, but now they got to be here for a minimum of 3 days. Whereas I've heard of instances where someone who needed to possibly be transferred to a mental health facility were turned away and sent back out on the street. And then, like you said, that can sometimes lead to, issues with the police, because if the police encounter you in the middle of an episode, and they don't have an awareness that you're dealing with mental health, it could end badly, because they're just looking at you as someone being volatile as opposed to someone who's really battling in their mind. And so and again, education needs to be, strengthened even across our police departments, so that they can get a better understanding of when they encounter someone, is this person dealing with a mental illness, or is this person really just being combative or, not compliant? Because a lot of times they do encounter people who really are battling with mental health issues, and they're mishandling them and mistreating them. And that, again, tends to end in negative outcomes. So being able to provide more education even across the board in our health field, our healthcare field, so that everybody knows how to cross over and actually collaborate and work together versus everybody keep staying in the separate entities. Because again, if you're working at a traditional hospital, why wouldn't you be familiar with mental health, knowing that you may refer people to a mental health facility? Like, it has to, the understanding has to be present. And so that's, a breakdown. It's just lack of knowledge. A lot of times it's just lack of knowledge.
So I have to ask this question, and I cannot let this
Okay.
evening go by without talking about something that weighs heavy on me, and I see it all the time. Is getting our men, our fellas, and I know you focus on that, Kiana. I'll be honest, Paige, I saw your story and what you had going on through just, social media and everything. I don't even know any guys who are that transparent and open up. And to be honest, I don't think I would pay as much attention. With Kiana, I mean, I don't know if you remember, but I refused to go to any males to seek help. It just was something that was foreign to me, and I just was not willing to do it. And I've had guys, since I started talking about mental health and being open, they'll send me messages and say, hey, I've been dealing with this for so long, but there's no follow-up. They don't seem to want to really get help. And then you talk about when it comes to policing and everything, a lot of instances you see young men and young women as well, but a lot of young men who get into these altercations with police or go to jail, get arrested, commit crimes, but it's an underlying issue. It's an underlying issue in a lot of the cases. So I want to know, how do we, and even with this, posting this, I'm sure a lot of men are going to tune in because this is a majority female panel. I don't think they would listen if it was all males sitting here talking. Just to be honest, that's me. But what do you think needs to be done? How do we draw our men in to really open up? And how do we draw our men in to really start working with other males and really try to help the community overall? I mean, even on top of that, to take it another step further, I don't see a lot of our men offering viable help to the women and the females in our community either. And all that needs to change. So my question is, where do we start? What needs to be done? And I know we have ears that are going to listen to you all, not to me.
So I'll start just in the space of research and higher education. I'm being taught and schooled by some amazing male and female professionals who are also very strong advocates for making sure that men, and especially men of color, Black men, are a part of those mental health professionals who are taking the steps forward. And then also within my cohort, the one male in the cohort, his focus is on dual diagnosis in the criminal system. So he's specifically looking at those who enter into possible, jail or, into the prison system, and they have, these two overarching diagnoses that they're dealing with, and how does that affect them, right? And he's like, he's young, he's 25, 26. And, we'll have a future conversation probably with him about how he became interested, but he's actively working. So, to your point, Thomas, and I know Kiana and Paige are going to have awesome things to say behind me, but your voice is just as important, right? Because, we can say things with style and grace, but, just being a leader in the community, I think we're all like models for, yes, it's okay to speak out. And honestly, the first, I would say, millennial or Gen Z person that I knew that was actively seeking therapy was a Black man. Now, I don't know if he told me because, you know, I just made him feel that comfortable, and you know, the machoism that comes with being a male wouldn't let him, you know, say it just randomly to other men. And maybe that is a part of, you know, men being comfortable with expressing things to women. But I think there's hope, and there's a way that we can say, look, we're all needed across the board in order to make this happen.
Yeah, I need my fellas to speak up. I don't. It's not a big population that I know specifically, and I can even take blame in saying that I don't seek out the males as I probably should. I don't know if it's a fear of the reaction or the fear of the conversation not going in the direction that I'm hoping, but that's been a barrier of mine.
I think that, and I'll put my boyfriend out here. He'll be okay since I'm speaking on it now. But I really am an advocate for transparency. So I think you taking your position and you sharing your mental health challenges and everything that you've been able to overcome is definitely setting that tone to have that conversation. And then again, using myself in my relationship for an example, me being transparent and being open and comfortable enough to talk about it, even on my hardest days, has given him that space of, hey, I'm open to seeing a therapist. I'm open to seeing about this and doing things in a different way than what I've been taught, which is to not acknowledge my emotions, not to do this, not to do that, but seeing something different, knowing that we have options outside of what we've been taught, I think is very refreshing, right? It's very cool, honestly, to know that there's something new, there's something different that we can do to better ourselves. And I think that having different people talking about it in different spaces is definitely going to make a change. So I say keep going. Your conversation is important. They listen to us, but I think you're very much so encouraging for them to actually speak out as well and to get help.
Thank you. Thank you.
I agree. I mean, but Thomas knows I've said that to him from day one, from when I first met him, that he definitely has the influence to make a difference in this world. I am currently doing different things, you know, to help draw in the male population. And it's working. It's been, you know, a process. It's been a journey. It's still new and fresh, so everybody's still getting accustomed to it. So, you know, but I am getting more responses than, you know, I initially thought. So like even now, you know, over 90% of my client base are men. So there are men out there that know that they need therapy, that need help. There are a couple of other organizations that I've even tapped into and connected with that support. It's called Therapy for Black Men and Black Men Heal. Those organizations are really, you know, strong in really promoting mental health awareness and encouraging Black men to seek mental health and seek mental health intervention and therapy. So it's becoming more known. It's just a matter of continuing the process and the journey. I'm hosting a men's retreat so that we can continue to, you know, set a safe space for men to get together and process and just kind of collaborate with other men and understanding that they're not alone in their challenges and struggles. Because again, it's not about that everybody has to have a specific diagnosis, but we're all human and we all have life experiences that challenges our mental and emotional well-being. And that's just the reality of life. And we all need support. We all need help. We all hurt. We all experience some level of trauma. And so it's affirming men, letting them know that you're there and you're genuine and authentic in your support and empowerment of them. And so once I start becoming more consistent in speaking directly to the male audience, I'm starting to definitely get a pretty strong response. And so I just have to remain consistent in supporting and getting our women on board, honestly, because in the process, women will walk around and say, oh, men need this, men need to work on this. But when it comes down to it, they don't actually do what it takes to really support their male counterparts or their intimate partners to actually pursue that help. Sometimes they become barriers. And it's sad because I've seen it even with some of my clients, like they will tell their significant other, oh, you need to go to therapy. And then they try to interrupt the process. And I think a lot of it though is because they're not seeking therapy. And I always recommend, like, if you're in a relationship or marriage, both of you guys should be, working on yourselves. Everybody can stand to work on themselves. I'm always working on myself. I never put myself in this space where I'm thinking, oh, I'm a therapist, I don't need help, I don't need to talk to anybody, because that's not true, because I'm still human. And even in my wholeness, I'm always evolving. I'm always in a space to heal. I'm always in a space to grow. And so I always make it clear to people that just like I'm still open and willing to continue to seek help and counsel from others, you should too, because it's just a helpful addition to your life flow as you work to grow and pursue certain goals and your passion, your purpose. It's always good to have those supports in place. And so I kind of try to make it user friendly like that so that people will be more open to engaging and pursuing that help. So it's just a matter of consistency with doing the efforts to tap into men, because I've seen so many start and stop efforts where men are targeted and they'll do something one time and then that's it. Men want to see consistency. So if they don't see you consistently trying to reach out to them and trying to connect with them, they don't take you seriously. So that's the thing that I'm really learning even in this journey.
Well, yeah. Go ahead, Daisy.
Well, I think to me, I was just wondering, I'm like, okay, how is it that I feel like maybe this is a question for Kiana. How is it that you're able to connect with men of different generations? Or do you notice that it's, maybe mostly millennials or, 40 to 50? Like, if you could share that information, because I would just love to see, like, is there, a part of the male population that we're just still having trouble getting hardly any responses at all? Or just, the younger they go, the more open? I just kind of wonder where the easiness is for that.
It is the younger, the millennials definitely. Generation X is there as well. They've become a little more open. Those over 50, they tend to be a little more, I would say over 55. That may be a little more resistant because then the millennials and the Generation X will say, my dad needs it too, but he won't come. But so of course, the older I have though worked with men over 55. Not a lot, but I've worked with a couple. And honestly, those were primarily individuals that were in ministry, ministry leaders. And that's probably because they counsel a lot. And so for them, it was needing an outlet to receive, counseling for themselves, because again, they're carrying and picking up everybody else's problems and weight, emotional weight, and then they don't have a space to offload. So it is continuing to tap into certain generations and populations that will become more open, because again, I'm with Thomas. You can meet and talk to people every day that will acknowledge the need for help, that acknowledge, I need to work on this, I need to change this, but they won't follow through. And so that's just the unfortunate culture of our society in general, is people not need to follow through with the things that they really know they need the most. Because unfortunately, I will go somewhere and I will see everybody's going to buy into anything that makes you look good physically. If I started a business selling lashes tomorrow, I'll probably be a millionaire by by the end of the year, just selling lashes. But I'm doing mental health. I'm selling mental health, and the process is moving a little much slower. And not because people don't know, like the person that's buying lashes from me will know, I got trauma. I got, things I'm dealing with. I tried to kill myself 3 times. Like whatever they will give you a laundry list of all what I know is wrong and that I need to work on. But instead, I'm going to spend $100 on these lashes, and I'm not going to give you the 100 for this counseling session. So it's helping us reset the tone of society of prioritizing our mental and emotional well-being over our style and attire and how we look and how we flex and all of that. Like just helping people change their mindsets and understanding what are the priorities really in life.
That's a good point. I've been on this sober journey, and when I talk about the changes I've seen when you stop not just indulging, but when you stop spending money on frivolous things and start investing in yourself, I mean, your life just takes a complete 180. And I don't think people even stop to realize that, you just take a chance. I start even budgeting and showing that over a month of not going out, not partying, not doing X, Y, and Z, and really take that money and invest in self-care. It's a life changer. But yeah, people seem to want that quick fix, and that's that quick fix. That healing process is not overnight. So that's not a comfortable process, and that's not something you want to spend your money on a lot of times because it's no quick return. But it's something that really needs to be addressed and changed. But another thing I heard a lot in this conversation, we talked about family, we talked about significant others, we talk about friends, or just people you have in your life. And I don't know if this is the appropriate time to dive into it, but I have been reading nonstop about codependency, and this is a thing that was just brought to me. If you go into, especially the BIPOC communities, I don't think I've ever heard a person say that word until recently. And I think this is a major issue. Our family members, our friends, significant others play a very major role in what's going on with mental health for the individual and for themselves as well. I want to know if anybody can speak on codependency, and do you feel that plays a major factor within our communities?
I'm trying to let the other ladies speak.
Well, okay. So before we, I think, jump into what plays into that, I would love to kind of hear everybody's definition of that word, because for me, you have the textbook definition, right? But then as soon as I feel like I ever learned about that word, it was me coming out of a relationship where I feel like in a way, that person's ups and downs, I felt like I was a part of that, right? And so I was either helping them or hindering them. And so that, to me, I think, when Trey first mentioned the word, is what came to mind. So I would just love to hear kind of that initial definition and maybe everybody's experience with it.
Well, for me, I mean, like I said, we could go into the formal definition, but I think just for me, Kiana, in layman's terms, is the enablement factor. In a lot of times, the codependency really stems from the person that's being, in a sense, the giver of the relationship, but then they become dependent on being a giver. And that's where the cycle continues. So say you have a family member that realizes, okay, I need help outside of this relationship. But then you as a giver, now you feel empty because this person is now seeking help from other sources. And you're like, but you're supposed to still need me, and I'm supposed to still help you, and I'm supposed to save you from everything. And so it's just getting them, both parties, to the space where that need and attachment for each other isn't so strong, and understanding that a healthy relationship has boundaries. And one of the major components of healthy boundaries is being able to say no and sticking with it and saying, no, this is not good. No, we can't do this. No, you don't need this. Or no, I'm not going to do that for you. But it's so being able to understand what are healthy boundaries for a relationship. But codependency is a cycle that's hard and has to be understood by all parties involved in order for it to actually be broken, because a lot of times it's addressed one-sided, but we're not addressing both sides. So both parties, the person that's always in need versus the person that's always giving, they both have to be addressed and talked to about how do you break that up? How do you break that cycle up? And you can still interact with each other, but without following these patterns of behaviors that are unhealthy or toxic for each other in the relationship.
Yeah, this is a very touchy subject for me because I see it everywhere I go. Being a person that's deals with substance abuse and mental health, I have family members who enabled me and took care of me, and you could see it weighing on them. So even me myself, I think some of that started with me seeing my family being so much of givers and doing for others. I started doing it to the point that I couldn't stop, and it hurt me. And I think it kind of at times destroys a lot of family dynamics, a lot of relationships. But a lot of people are not even aware of the fact that they're codependent or they're in this situation because it's not something that's talked about widely. And, you know, a lot of people get defensive when you say you're doing too much or you're caring too much or this and that. I mean, it's so much to codependency that I think if people really took the time to kind of educate themselves on that, and it for me, it was like a light bulb went off when I started seeing that, hey, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and it's causing a strain on myself. But I think it's just my nature. But it's actually something that can be broken, like you said. But I see it in everywhere I go, everywhere I'm walking. You know, you often see the mother and father who are always defending the child who has a lot of issues going on, or you see the child always defending friends or bad behavior that goes on within a dynamic. And it takes a lot for a person to look within and see that, you know, I need to change. Even if I'm doing good, sometimes you have to break those just those ideas and just those actions that you do on a daily basis sometimes. So I had to throw that in there. Codependency, reading Codependent No More, Codependency No More. Don't quote me, I'm sorry, but I read it, I promise. But just reading those books and just seeing that a lot of us are in struggling with those issues.
Paige, I have a question for you. I'm curious, when you found the link on Twitter and you started to share your story, can you go a little bit more into, I guess, when you had the face-to-face conversations with maybe those who were affected by what you wrote the most? Can you kind of talk a little bit more about like that interaction, or maybe how your friends responded to you? I know that you said you had some positive experiences, but I'm asking for those who, you know, maybe after this conversation that they're gonna go have to have that talk, right, and kind of help them understand, you know, what they should expect or what they'll walk into.
Sure. So I took a pretty dramatic leap when it came to coming out about my mental health challenges and my diagnosis. But the conversation, gosh, it went from I'm proud of you and I wish I would have known, I wish I would have done this better, I wish I would have done this, you know, things like that. And then it went to, like I said, family members that were like, well, why are you telling our business, right? And then it went to, well, I'm happy that you spoke out about this because I myself live with similar challenges. So again, it varied from person to person, but it was really more so for myself And I wanted to just have freedom and be okay with not being okay and being comfortable in that. And then the bigger and the biggest picture was that I knew it was for those that were living in silence. So it wasn't about me anymore. Like I had overcome a lot of things. I'd been a survivor of many different things. But at the end of the day, I knew that we weren't talking about it in our community. So I wanted to be that voice. I wanted to be that person to say, hey, like, it's okay that we have this conversation. If I have to be uncomfortable for a little bit, just to be okay for a long period of time, I'll do that. I'll take that, I'll take that on the chin, not a problem whatsoever. So I do encourage people. It's a difficult thing to have, but do it for yourself. If you trust that individual, have that conversation. If you feel as if you can be vulnerable, have that conversation. But I don't force people to do anything they don't, find comfortable, but it is beneficial because then you're able to ask for help when you really do need it. Then you're able to receive help when somebody else sees that you may be struggling. So it's a positive at the end of the day. It's definitely something that I'm grateful that I did. I do get a lot of questions like, well, is it difficult for you to tell your story? Is it challenging? How does your family feel about it? And my answer is always, yeah, it's never easy, but it's definitely worth it. I've had days to where I'll do a speaking engagement and the reaction is not always like applause. Sometimes it's a side eye. Sometimes it's, I can't believe she said that. And I've had times to where that's hurt my feelings and I've cried, but it's always that one person that comes up afterwards. It's like, hey, I needed that. Thank you so much for sharing that. So it's for the bigger picture. It's for our community. It's for our people. And that's why I'm here. So yeah.
I love it. Thank you.
So I have one more thing. I just want to add. I know we had one more question, just to follow up. But I definitely like the points you made, and we're doing a lot. We're trying to service our community, help our community, work with those in the BIPOC community. But I've had great experiences with those outside of my community as well, and that was an eye opener for me. It's a motto that my father, myself, a lot of us live by, and it's there are people of our color, not of our kind, and people of our kind that are not of our color. And I think I can apply it to a lot of situations. And that was something eye-opening to me when I was in a mental health facility and learning, how to recover and all of the processes. Somehow I gravitated to people that come from very different walks of life than me. Even though I come back and I'm definitely dedicated to my community because I see a larger need. We're a minority when it comes to seeking help. But yeah, I interacted with a lot of people. I mean, every walk of life. And I just wanted to know, have you all had experiences that are outside of the BIPOC community? And I'm hoping that you can encourage people, to broaden their reach as well, because I was so cut off. I was not willing to talk to anybody that didn't look like me, didn't act like me, didn't sound like me. But I've had some wonderful experiences outside of our community, and I think we can always look at others as resources and as as partners, as friends in the struggles that we have.
I agree. I've had similar experiences, just even from my younger career days, where unfortunately, I got more support and mentorship from people that were not of my kind, which I, don't like, but I'm still going to always be an advocate for, of course, my African American culture and community. But I do understand that I can't limit myself to that community when it comes to even supports for myself or, people that I need to reach and talk to, because sometimes somebody may receive a message that I'm sharing that doesn't look like me, and they may receive it more than someone that does. And so just not me. I don't set limitations. I've never really set limitations on myself in my interactions when it comes to crossing over in different cultures. Um, I've just never flowed that way. So yeah, I mean, like I said, of course now I am really targeting Black men, because I know that we really, really need to get them in a space to tap into mental health interventions and awareness. But at the same time, I've never limited myself when it comes to crossing cultural barriers. That's just how I've always flowed.
I think too, there's this saying, you may learn locally, but live globally, or practice globally. And so, um, and especially on the research side, there's a lot of just articles and science and tools and technology and things that are being created. And some of it is biased and some of it isn't, right? And so it's up to us to make sure that we're present at the table, or that we're keeping in communications, not only with those who are, within our local community, but those who are serving um, around the world, because you never know, what that relationship, with that connection, with that community, what that experience is going to teach and ultimately do for you. Just, as you grow, as you learn, and as you continue to be an advocate.
No, I definitely agree by not limiting yourself or boxing yourself in. I definitely think that there's a space of learning from everybody and just having those conversations, seeing what their different techniques are, seeing what their conversation is like, seeing what their challenges are. Because I mean, I don't believe that mental health is just stigmatized just within the minority community. We all don't want to be called crazy, so to say, or have that, you know what I mean? It's just a consistent conversation across all boards. But I am a believer that it is a challenge in our community that we do have to talk about, but definitely, again, like you all have said, not limiting ourselves to just that.
All right, so I guess this is the big question for you all. What do you all have going on now? How can we support? What events, what programs, what all do you have coming up? I've seen both of your recent works, but I'll let you tell everybody else because I pay attention. So.
I'll go. So coming up, things are slowing down because of the holidays, but I personally am still seeing peer-to-peer for peer support. So one-on-one, just working through everyday challenges, going over coping skills and things like that. I'm still doing a lot of speaking engagements and workshops, but kind of taking a step back for the holidays and practicing some self-care. So that's actually what I personally have going on with St. Jane, and doing fun things like this. So that's where we're at.
Well, of course, I'm continuing mental health awareness on social media and speaking on different platforms, such as this one, to accomplish that. I do have a men's retreat coming up next month, November 19th through the 21st. I'm excited, and yeah, it's going to be here in Georgia, but we are expecting, those to travel, some to travel from out of state. So I always keep telling people, don't limit yourself. I have a travel agent in place, and some other accommodations for those that are coming from another state and area, so that I can help make that seamless process when it comes to your travel accommodations. But I'm excited because I have 5 amazing speakers that have their own stories that they're going to share to help encourage and empower men, just to continue to seek that self-care and mental health intervention, and just being able to know how to navigate through, life challenges as far as what men tend to face or struggle with, but they are not necessarily permitted to talk about openly on a regular basis. So that's the only thing I have for this year. I'm sure I got some other things that will be coming in the pipeline for the beginning of the year.
Well, I guess fortunately and unfortunately, I had a trip planned for that period, so I didn't sign up, but I have you on camera now, so I need to make sure that you still have a space open for me, because I will be signing up. Definitely. And Paige, I have 2 teenagers that I think would really be receptive to you. And so I'm going to try to figure out how I can connect you with them. And once again, we're being recorded, so you can't really say no to me on here. You have to agree.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But no, seriously, I really enjoy and love the work that both of you all are doing. We'll continue to support in any way we can, and the work is very relevant, especially to what's going on. I have a house with 6 kids who are going through that mental health. I mean, change. I mean, I'm watching it before my eyes, and then of course myself, who struggles on a daily. But once I started to come out and speak on what's going on and be very transparent and vulnerable, which is another thing people don't like to do. But once I started doing those, taking those steps, life's been a lot easier. So once again, thank you for all the work that you do, because you all are making a very big difference in our community.
Yeah, I definitely echo those sentiments. Ooh, amazing.
So I know, Daisha, you're ready to make another big announcement that we have coming sooner than later with the BIPOC Mental Health Roundtable. Yeah, I'll just let you go into it.
Sure. So, in addition to these conversations and these panels that we'll be having, we have a project that will launch next year. Within the project, we'll identify 4 deserving families that are in need of these mental health resources, and it'll be, a collective group of us who will be providing that assistance, and tracking their process. And so as this is being, recorded and edited, and especially as we go live, we'll be able to have a link so that, those families who are in need can have the ability to go through the application process. And so our goal is to be able to provide every single one of these families with the education, the resources, and other forms of assistance within a 3-month period. And the goal is to be able to increase their well-being, and then be able to create those new and ongoing opportunities for them to be able to achieve. So as a collective, and you guys are a part of this collective now, but we will be, making this mission come alive. So that was our big announcement.
Yeah, as a part of the collective, we need people who can not just lend resources, who can give advice, who can speak from their specific industries, and we're going to do the legwork as far as getting the funding and bringing in a lot of what's needed. But we're going to do this. I think it's really important. Like you said, a lot of the resources are out there, but we don't know about them, or there are certain barriers that a lot of us face, and we want to ease that process for people. And we say for families, but if the support is where it needs to be and should be, we want to increase that exponentially and expeditiously. So yeah, that's it. We are creating this mental health collective. Daisha and I, more Daisha than me, is the brainchild behind this. And I'm right in line with her and what we are trying to do. And over the next few days, more details will come out, and people will be able to register, apply, and get this rolling. 2022 will be a big year, and we want this to keep going. We look to partner with any and everybody who has a positive mission and making a change within the BIPOC community.
So, as we get ready to wrap up, ladies, again, thank you for your expertise, your energy, your time. And so, as we leave out and wrap up, I just want to make sure that the community and those who are listening, they know where to find you, where to follow up, where to sign up for your retreat, or how to support your peer-to-peer process page. So, definitely, ladies, if you all can give us, your socials or any websites, so folks can stay connected with you.
Sure. All of my information is the same. So it is 911 Sane, S-A-N-E, Jane, J-A-N-E. I'm on all social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and wherever else there's social media. That's where I am. Same for the website as well. So 911 St. Jane, and you'll find me.
And my website is empoweredtoheal.info. You can connect onto my social media from there. The event registration tab is there for the retreat. And my name is Kiana Howell. So you can look me up on Instagram or Facebook under that name as well. My Instagram page is empowered to heal _LLC. So that's where you can find me.
Love it. My social media folks, DRDESHA, and then also my company Pantherum, that is doing the market research and everything. PANTHERUM, our Pantherum group. That's how you find me. How do we find you, Trey? How do we follow
Don't
you?
forget. Let's tell what does Pantherum have coming up also.
Woo.
Let's know.
Oh goodness. Well, on the Pantherum tip, we'll be speaking on like a world mental health conference, as well as doing some entertainment and possible like comedy mission work. And so ultimately, our background was originally to provide public relations and event planning for those in entertainment. But what we found is that we can make you famous, or we can do the research to help you be healthy. And so that's our mission and our focus now. So and we'll be speaking, as well as really looking at the mental health technologies that are out right now, studying their effectiveness, and getting that research together so that when those who are making the technologies or the tools to help treat mental health, they're not just using a cookie cutter approach, right? They're doing something that actually works and actually is applicable to people of today. So
Nice. Well, I am Thomas Dortch. Once again, I go by Trey. You can find me social media at TW Dortch3. I can't go without mentioning my family page at We Are Blending 86. We talk a lot about the family dynamic. Our family is something else. It's 8 of us. We have Hispanic as well as African American and a lot of other mixtures up in there. So we come from several different angles. So I had to put that out there so you can see how our family dynamic works, and we don't hold back any punches. So we definitely touch a lot on mental health. But my company, as you can see, the logo is the Prime Theory Company. It's a health and wellness company. The end of this year, we will be opening our first wellness center in Southwest Atlanta, 2312 Benjamin Mays Drive. So you can find us on social media, Prime Theory CO. But yeah, that's my main focus right now, getting this wellness center in the heart of the underserved community of Atlanta, and continuing these conversations. I think they're very important. With time, we're going to start to get a lot of people to really come on, share their stories, and just get involved from many different aspects. So that's where we are. And we, once again, have to thank you all for coming on and spending time with us and sharing a wealth of information. And we got to keep this going, like I said. So we're excited about that as well. Okay, we want to thank you all again for coming and joining us. I hope you all enjoyed what we had to offer tonight. This is only part 1. We will be back again. This will be part of a series. As you just saw, you can see all of the the platforms that we are on and the ways to contact us. Hopefully you have some follow-up questions. You may not have asked them tonight, but you can feel free to ask them later. Thank you again for joining us. We will have those applications up tomorrow. So any families, any friends, anyone you know that may be dealing with some mental health issues, may need some assistance, please encourage them to fill out the applications, reach out to us on any of our platforms. We'll be more than happy to assist, point you in the right direction, and do any and everything that we can. So thank you again. I can't say thank you enough on behalf of all of the panelists, and Daisha, myself, just thank you. Thank you. Please continue to tune in. If you have any comments, concerns, anything you have to offer, do not hesitate to reach out to us. Have a great evening. Thank you so much.